The room was alive with energy, buzzing like a hive of bees ready to swarm. People filled the seats, their faces glowing faintly under the harsh studio lights. Cameras lined the edges of the stage, capturing every movement, every flicker of emotion. This wasn't just another talk show. This was a battleground where ideas clashed and reputations hung by a thread. At the center of it all sat two women who couldn't be more different from each other. Candace Owens leaned slightly forward in her chair, her posture calm but commanding. Her dark hair framed her face perfectly, and her sharp eyes seemed to pierce through anyone she looked at. She had spent years honing her skills, mastering the art of debate. To her supporters, she was a beacon of truth, unafraid to challenge the status quo. To her critics, she was divisive, even ruthless. But tonight, none of that mattered. What mattered was the woman sitting across from her. Jasmine Crockett adjusted herself in her seat, trying to appear composed despite the storm brewing inside her. She wore a bright red blazer that stood out against the neutral tones of the set. Her curly hair bounced softly as she shifted, and her lips curved into a polite smile meant to mask her nerves. Jasmine was new to this level of scrutiny. While Candace thrived in high-pressure situations, Jasmine still felt like she was learning the ropes. But she wasn't about to back down. Not here, not now. Between them lay a polished wooden table, its surface reflecting the glare of the overhead lights. On top of it rested microphones, water bottles, and stacks of notes neither woman had touched. Yet. Behind them loomed a massive screen displaying the debate topic in bold letters: race, economics, and justice. It was a loaded subject, one guaranteed to stir emotions and ignite passions. And judging by the murmurs in the audience, everyone knew they were in for a spectacle. The moderator, a middle-aged man named Greg Miller, cleared his throat into the microphone. His voice cut through the chatter, bringing an uneasy silence over the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his tone measured, "welcome to tonight's special edition of Voices of America. We have two incredible guests joining us tonight to discuss some of the most pressing issues facing our nation today." He gestured toward Candace first. To my right, we have Candace Owens, a renowned commentator and author known for her thought-provoking perspectives on politics and culture. A smattering of applause broke out, though it was clear which side of the room supported her. And to my left, Greg continued, turning to Jasmine, we have Jasmine Crockett, a rising star in progressive politics and advocate for social justice reform. Another round of applause followed, louder this time but equally divided among the audience. Greg glanced between the two women before continuing. Tonight, we'll dive deep into topics such as racial inequality, economic disparity, and the role of justice in shaping our future. Each speaker will have 5 uninterrupted minutes to present their opening statements, followed by a moderated discussion. Let's begin. With that, he turned to Candace. "Ms. Owens, you may proceed." Candace didn't hesitate. She leaned forward slightly, her gaze steady and unwavering. "Thank you, Greg," she said smoothly, her voice carrying effortlessly across the room. "Let me start by saying something that might ruffle a few feathers. But I believe in speaking, plainly. For too long, we've allowed identity politics to dictate how we approach these critical issues. Instead of focusing on solutions, we've become obsessed with labels and victimhood narratives." She paused briefly, letting her words sink in. The audience was quiet now, hanging on to every syllable. Take economics, for example. Poverty affects people of all races, yet we're constantly told that race is the primary factor holding people back. That narrative isn't just misleading, it's dangerous. It distracts us from addressing real problems like failing schools, lack of job opportunities, and government policies that stifle innovation. Jasmine listened intently, her fingers tapping lightly on the table. She wanted to interrupt, to counter Candace's points right then and there, but she knew she had to wait her turn. Still, the frustration bubbling inside her was hard to ignore. Candace went on, her tone growing sharper with each sentence. "And when it comes to justice, we hear cries of systemic racism everywhere. But let's look at the facts. Crime rates are higher in certain communities not because of racism, but because of broken systems within those communities themselves. Until we stop blaming external forces and start taking responsibility, nothing will change. Her final words landed like a punch, leaving the audience momentarily stunned. Some nodded in agreement while others frowned, clearly displeased. Then came the applause, a mix of cheers and boos echoing throughout the room. When it was finally Jasmine's turn, she took a deep breath and smiled warmly, hoping to ease the tension. "Thank you, Greg," she said, her voice soft but firm. "I appreciate Ms. Owens's passion, but I must respectfully disagree with much of what she's said." She straightened in her seat, her confidence slowly returning. "Yes, poverty affects people of all races, but let's not pretend that centuries of slavery, segregation, and discrimination haven't created barriers that persist to this day. These aren't just narratives, they're realities faced by millions of Americans." Her words resonated with parts of the audience, drawing nods of approval. Encouraged, she pressed on. "As for crime rates, it's easy to point fingers without looking at the root causes. Lack of access to quality education, healthcare, and affordable housing doesn't happen in a vacuum. These are systemic issues tied directly to historical injustices." But before she could finish her thought, Candace interjected, unable to hold back any longer. "Systemic issues? Really?" She shot back, raising an eyebrow. "How convenient to blame everything on the past instead of addressing personal accountability. You can't keep using history as an excuse for failure." Jasmine blinked, caught off guard by the sudden attack. "That's not what I'm doing," she replied, her voice wavering slightly. "I'm simply pointing out that ignoring history doesn't make it go away." Candace leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. "Ignoring history? No, what you're doing is perpetuating a cycle of dependency. Instead of empowering people to rise above their circumstances, you're telling them they're victims with no way out." The moderator tried to intervene, sensing things were escalating quickly. "Ladies, please," but Candace wasn't done. "Let me ask you this, Jasmine. Do you honestly believe that constantly reminding people of their hardships is helping them? Or is it just keeping them stuck?" Jasmine opened her mouth to respond, but found herself at a loss for words. Candace's rapid-fire delivery had thrown her off balance, and the clock was ticking down. The audience watched with bated breath, unsure of what would happen next. Finally, Jasmine managed to find her footing. "Empathy isn't about keeping people stuck," she said, her voice steadier now. "It's about understanding where they're coming from so we can build better solutions together." Her response earned a few supportive claps, but it was clear who had dominated the exchange. When the timer buzzed, signaling the end of the opening statements, the room erupted into murmurs. Candace sat back, a satisfied smirk playing on her lips, while Jasmine exhaled deeply, feeling the weight of the moment settle over her. What happened next would leave America speechless, and neither woman could have predicted the chain of events that would follow. The debate ended, but its impact lingered like smoke after a fire. As the cameras turned off and the studio lights dimmed, the nation was left buzzing with reactions. Social media exploded within minutes, hashtags trending faster than anyone could keep up. Candace wins dominated one side of the conversation, while Jasmine fights back rallied supporters on the other. People argued passionately in comment sections, living rooms, and coffee shops, dissecting every word Candace Owens had said, and every moment Jasmine Crockett struggled to respond. Jasmine sat alone in her hotel room later that night, replaying the debate over and over in her mind. She stared at her phone screen as notifications poured in, messages from friends offering support, strangers criticizing her performance, and even a few trolls mocking her discomfort. It felt overwhelming, like waves crashing against her chest without mercy. For the first time since stepping into politics, she questioned whether she belonged here at all. Her closest friend, Maria Lopez, called just as Jasmine was about to turn off her phone. "Hey," Maria said softly, sensing the heaviness in Jasmine's silence. "How are you holding up?" "I don't know," Jasmine admitted, sighing deeply. "I thought I was ready for this, but I wasn't. Not for her." Maria paused before responding. Listen, Jazz, debates aren't easy, especially when someone comes at you like that. But don't let it break you. You've got something important to say, and people need to hear it. Jasmine nodded, though Maria couldn't see her. You're right, I feel like I let everyone down. You didn't, Maria insisted firmly. Take some time to breathe, recharge, and figure out your next move. Trust me, no one expects you to bounce back overnight. With Maria's encouragement, Jasmine decided to step away from the spotlight for a little while. She packed her bags and headed to a quiet cabin in Colorado, hoping the solitude would help clear her head. Nestled deep in the woods, surrounded by towering pine trees and crisp mountain air, the cabin offered a much-needed escape from the noise of the world. Meanwhile, Candace Owens found herself thrust further into the limelight. Supporters hailed her as a fearless champion of truth, praising her ability to cut through what they saw as liberal rhetoric. Critics, however, accused her of being too harsh, too dismissive of opposing viewpoints. Despite the backlash, Candace reveled in the attention. This was exactly where she wanted to be, in the center of the storm, unapologetically making waves. One day, while attending a private networking event in New York City, Candace met Jake Thompson. Tall, charismatic, and impeccably dressed, Jake introduced himself as a tech entrepreneur with ambitious plans to reshape public discourse. He admired Candace's work and believed she could play a pivotal role in his latest project. Echo Chamber, he explained, gesturing animatedly as they stood near the rooftop bar overlooking Manhattan. It's an algorithm designed to analyze data from social media, news outlets, and live debates. It predicts how people think and helps amplify messages that resonate with them. Candace raised an eyebrow, intrigued. So, it manipulates opinions? Jake chuckled lightly. Not manipulates, enhances. Think of it as a tool to give voices like yours more reach, more influence. Imagine being able to guide conversations on a massive scale. Though skeptical at first, Candace couldn't deny the appeal. If Echo Chamber could help spread ideas aligned with her beliefs, why shouldn't she use it? After all, her opponents weren't shy about using similar tactics to push their agendas. Tell me more, she said finally, leaning in closer. Back in Colorado, Jasmine tried to focus on nature's beauty, but her thoughts kept drifting back to the debate. One evening, unable to sleep, she decided to take a walk in the woods surrounding the cabin. The moonlight filtered through the trees, casting long shadows on the forest floor. As she wandered deeper into the wilderness, she stumbled upon a small clearing where a man sat by a campfire. He looked up as she approached, his face illuminated by the flickering flames. Lost? He asked, his voice calm and steady. No, just thinking, Jasmine replied hesitantly. Mind if I join you? Not at all. He gestured toward the empty space beside him. I'm Daniel Harper. Jasmine Crockett. She introduced herself, sitting down cautiously. Something about Daniel seemed different. He carried an air of mystery, like he knew things most people didn't. They talked for hours, sharing stories and perspectives. At one point, Daniel mentioned his past as an intelligence analyst, working with technologies capable of influencing human behavior. It's scary how easily people can be swayed, he said, staring into the fire. There are systems out there designed to exploit our emotions, our fears, our desires. They feed us narratives until we can't tell fact from fiction anymore. Jasmine frowned. Are you talking about algorithms or propaganda? Both, Daniel answered simply. And worse. What happens when those tools fall into the wrong hands? When power becomes concentrated in ways we can't control? His words unsettled her, planting seeds of doubt about the forces shaping public opinion. Was it possible that debates like hers with Candace were part of a larger game, one controlled by unseen players pulling strings behind the scenes? By the time Jasmine returned to the cabin, her mind raced with questions. Could Daniel's warnings hold any truth? Or was he just another conspiracy theorist lost in the woods? Either way, his perspective stuck with her, lingering like an unanswered riddle. Days turned into weeks, and the fallout from the debate continued to ripple across the country. Protests erupted in major cities, fueled by heightened tensions between opposing ideologies. Some demonstrators chanted slogans supporting Candace while others rallied behind Jasmine. News outlets capitalized on the chaos, broadcasting fiery speeches and dramatic confrontations around the clock. Amidst the turmoil, Jasmine began piecing together fragments of information. With Daniel's cryptic warnings echoing in her mind, she reached out to Emily Carter, an investigative journalist known for exposing corruption and corporate malpractice. Emily agreed to meet her discreetly in Denver, curious about what Jasmine had uncovered. Over coffee, Jasmine shared everything: the debate, the aftermath, her encounter with Daniel, and his concerns about manipulation through technology. Emily listened intently, jotting down notes. "If what you're saying is true," she said slowly, "then we're dealing with something far bigger than either of us realized." Together, they vowed to dig deeper, determined to uncover the truth, hidden beneath layers of misinformation and deception. Little did they know, their investigation would lead them straight to Candace Owens, and the shadowy figure orchestrating events from behind the curtain. As the nation remained divided, teetering on the edge of uncertainty, one thing became clear. The battle wasn't just between left and right, it was between freedom and control. And in the end, everyone had a choice to make. Jake Thompson's office was unlike any other. Located on the top floor of a skyscraper in downtown Los Angeles, it overlooked the sprawling city below. Inside, sleek glass walls separated the workspace from private meeting rooms, while neon blue lighting gave the room an almost futuristic feel. It was here that Candace Owens found herself sitting across from Jake, listening intently as he explained the full scope of Echo Chamber. "So let me get this straight," Candace said, leaning back in her chair. "This system can analyze public opinion in real time and predict how people will react to certain messages?" "Exactly," Jake replied, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "It doesn't just track trends, it anticipates them. Imagine being able to craft a message so perfectly tailored that it resonates with millions before anyone even realizes what's happening." Candace crossed her arms, considering his words. On one hand, she liked the idea of using technology to amplify ideas she believed in. But on the other hand, something about it felt off. Manipulating emotions wasn't exactly new in politics, but this seemed different, bigger, more invasive. "What's the catch?" she asked finally, narrowing her eyes. "There's always a catch." Jake hesitated for a moment, then leaned forward. "The catch is that we need someone like you, someone who understands the power of narrative, to guide its direction. Without the right voice behind it, Echo Chamber is just another tool. With you, though." He trailed off, letting the implication hang in the air. Candace nodded slowly, still unsure. "I'll think about it," she said, standing up. "But if I agree to this, I want full transparency. No secrets." Jake smiled, extending his hand. "You have my word." Meanwhile, Jasmine Crockett had returned from Colorado with renewed determination. Her late-night conversation with Daniel Harper lingered in her mind, fueling her resolve to uncover the truth. She met Emily Carter at a quiet cafe in Denver, where they began piecing together clues about the mysterious systems Daniel had mentioned. "I've been digging into some old reports," Emily said, sliding a folder across the table. "Turns out there are whispers about a program called Echo Chamber. Supposedly it uses advanced algorithms to manipulate public opinion. Sound familiar?" Jasmine opened the folder, scanning the documents inside. There were memos, emails, and technical diagrams, all pointing to a shadowy organization experimenting with neural networks designed to influence human behavior. One name kept appearing: Jake Thompson. "This guy," Jasmine muttered, tapping the page with Jake's photo. "Who is he?" Emily shrugged. "From what I can tell, he's a tech entrepreneur with deep pockets and connections. But here's the kicker. He used to work for a government contractor specializing in psychological operations." Jasmine frowned, connecting the dots. "So he's not just building software, he's weaponizing it." "It looks that way," Emily agreed grimly. "And based on these documents, Candace Owens might already be involved." Jasmine felt her stomach tighten. If Candace was tied to echo chamber, then the debate hadn't just been a clash of ideologies. It had been a calculated move to test the system's capabilities. The realization made her angry, but also more focused than ever. "We need proof," Jasmine said firmly. "Something concrete that ties Jake to echo chamber and shows how it's being used." Emily nodded. "Agreed. But getting that proof won't be easy. These guys don't leave loose ends." Back in Los Angeles, Candace continued to weigh her options. She spent hours poring over research papers and case studies Jake had provided, trying to understand the ethical implications of echo chamber. While she admired its potential to shape narratives, she couldn't shake the feeling that it crossed a line she wasn't ready to cross. One evening, as she scrolled through social media, she noticed something strange. Posts supporting her recent statements were going viral at an alarming rate, far faster than usual. Comment sections were flooded with identical phrases, almost like bots programmed to repeat specific slogans. It didn't take long for her to realize that echo chamber was already active and testing its reach. She called Jake immediately. "What's going on?" she demanded, her tone sharp. "Why are my posts spreading like wildfire without me doing anything?" Jake chuckled nervously. "Relax, Candace. That's just echo chamber warming up. See? It works." "But I never agreed to this," she snapped. "You said you'd wait until I made a decision." "And I did wait," Jake countered smoothly. "Until now. Look, Candace, you're either with us or against us. This is your chance to make a real impact. Don't waste it." Candace hung up, frustration bubbling inside her. She knew Jake was right about one thing. This was her chance to change the game. But at what cost? While Candace wrestled with her conscience, Jasmine and Emily worked tirelessly to gather evidence. They tracked down former employees of Jake's company, many of whom were willing to talk under the condition of anonymity. One whistleblower, a young programmer named Alex Rivera, proved especially valuable. "I worked on echo chamber for 2 years, Alex confessed during a secret meeting in a motel room. "At first I thought it was revolutionary, a way to connect people and foster understanding. But then I saw how it was really being used. To divide. To control." He handed over a flash drive containing encrypted files detailing the project's inner workings. "Everything you need is in there," he said. "Just promise me one thing, don't let them silence you." Jasmine promised, clutching the drive tightly. With Alex's help, they now had enough to expose echo chamber, but breaking the story wouldn't be easy. Jake's network was vast, and his resources nearly limitless. Any misstep could mean disaster. As days turned into weeks, tensions escalated nationwide. Protests grew more frequent, fueled by increasingly polarized rhetoric. People argued passionately online and offline, often without realizing they were being steered by invisible forces. Social media platforms became battlegrounds, with hashtags trending and fading within hours. Jasmine watched it all unfold with a heavy heart. She knew the truth, but sharing it meant risking everything, including her career. Still, she couldn't stay silent any longer. With Emily's help, she drafted an exposé detailing echo chamber's existence and its role in shaping public opinion. Before publishing, they reached out to Daniel Harper, hoping he could offer insight or advice. He agreed to meet them in a secluded park outside Denver where they discussed their next steps. "You're playing with fire," Daniel warned, his expression grave. "If Jake finds out what you're planning, he won't hesitate to destroy you." "We know the risks," Jasmine replied firmly. "But if we don't do this, who will?" Daniel nodded reluctantly. "Then make sure you're ready, because once this goes public, there's no turning back." With Daniel's blessing, Jasmine and Emily prepared to release the exposé. Little did they know, Jake had already caught wind of their investigation, and he wasn't about to let them ruin everything he'd built. The stage was set for a showdown. As Jasmine prepared to confront Candace publicly, armed with irrefutable evidence, the nation braced itself for answers. What started as a heated debate had spiraled into something much bigger, a fight for truth, freedom, and the soul of democracy itself. In the end, everyone would have to choose a side, not left or right, but between manipulation and authenticity, control and liberty, and the outcome would leave America forever changed. The day had finally arrived. Jasmine Crockett stood backstage, clutching the USB flash drive containing all the evidence she and Emily Carter had gathered about Echo Chamber. Her heart pounded in her chest like a drum, each beat reminding her of the stakes. This wasn't just about exposing a dangerous system. It was about reclaiming truth in a world drowning in manipulation. Emily gave her a reassuring nod. "You've got this," she whispered, adjusting the strap of her bag. "Just stick to the plan." Jasmine took a deep breath and stepped onto the stage. The room erupted into flashes of light as dozens of cameras captured her every move. Reporters shouted questions, their voices overlapping in a chaotic symphony. She ignored them, focusing instead on the microphone set up at the podium. Behind her, a large screen displayed the words, "Echo Chamber, the truth exposed." "Good afternoon," Jasmine began, her voice steady despite the storm swirling inside her. "Thank you all for coming today. What I'm about to share will shock many of you, but it's the truth and the public deserves to know." She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. Then, with a click of a button, the screen behind her lit up with documents, graphs, and screenshots detailing Echo Chamber's existence and purpose. Whispers rippled through the crowd as people leaned forward, trying to absorb the information. "This," Jasmine continued, pointing to the screen, "is Echo Chamber, a program designed to manipulate public opinion using advanced algorithms. It analyzes data from social media, news outlets, and live events to predict how people think and influence their behavior. And it's already being used to divide us." Gasps echoed through the room. Some reporters scribbled furiously in their notebooks while others snapped photos of the screen. Jasmine scanned the audience, her gaze landing on Candace Owens, who sat frozen in her seat near the front row. For once, Candace's usual confidence seemed shaken. "And here's the most alarming part," Jasmine said, raising the USB flash drive for everyone to see. "This isn't just speculation. These are real documents obtained from whistleblowers within the organization responsible for Echo Chamber. One name keeps appearing in connection with this project: Jake Thompson." That moment, a murmur spread through the crowd as all eyes turned toward the back of the room. There, standing near the exit, was Jake Thompson himself. His face was pale, his jaw clenched tightly as he realized he'd been outed. He tried to slip away unnoticed, but several reporters blocked his path, shoving microphones in his face. "What do you have to say about these allegations?" one reporter demanded. "Are you admitting to manipulating public opinion?" another shouted. Jake pushed past them, his composure cracking under the pressure. As he disappeared through the door, Jasmine refocused the attention on herself. "I didn't come here to point fingers or settle scores," she said firmly. "I came here to warn you. Echo Chamber isn't just a tool, it's a weapon. And if we don't stop it, our ability to think freely, to make choices based on facts rather than manufactured narratives, will be lost forever." Her final words sent shockwaves through the room. People exchanged uneasy glances, unsure whether to believe her or dismiss it as conspiracy theory gone wild. But the evidence on the screen, and the look of guilt on Jake's face, was hard to ignore. Candace sat motionless, her mind racing. She hadn't known the full extent of Echo Chamber's capabilities until now. Sure, Jake had mentioned its potential to shape public discourse, but she never imagined it would go this far. Dividing communities, amplifying hate speech, manipulating emotions on such a massive scale. As the press conference ended, reporters swarmed Jasmine, bombarding her with questions. Candace seized the opportunity to slip away unnoticed. She needed time to process what she'd just learned and figure out where she stood in all of this. Back at her apartment, Candace paced the living room, replaying the exposé in her mind. She felt betrayed, not just by Jake, but by herself. How could she have been so blind? Had her desire to win overshadowed her moral compass? Her phone buzzed incessantly with calls and messages from supporters and critics alike. Some praised her for having the courage to expose the truth, even though she hadn't actually done anything yet. Others accused her of complicity, demanding answers she wasn't ready to give. Finally, she picked up the phone and dialed Jake's number. When he answered, His voice was shaky, almost desperate. "Candace, listen," he started, but she cut him off. "No, you listen," she snapped, her anger bubbling to the surface. "What were you thinking? You told me this was about amplifying voices, not tearing people apart." "It was supposed to be," Jake shot back defensively. "But things escalated. We thought we were helping." "Helping who?" Candace demanded. "Yourself? Your bank account? Don't you see what you've done? You've turned democracy into a game." There was silence on the other end of the line. Jake knew she was right, but admitting it wouldn't change anything now. "What do you want me to do?" he asked quietly. "For starters, shut down Echo Chamber," Candace replied, "and then face the consequences of your actions, because if you don't, I will." Meanwhile, Jasmine and Emily celebrated their small victory, but only briefly. They knew exposing Echo Chamber was just the beginning. The real challenge lay ahead, stopping the program before it caused irreversible damage. "We need to find the servers," Emily said, spreading maps and blueprints across the table. "If we can locate the physical infrastructure, we might be able to disable it." Jasmine nodded. "According to Alex's intel, they're housed in an underground facility outside San Francisco. But getting in won't be easy." "Nothing worth doing ever is," Emily countered with a wry smile. "Besides, we've got Daniel. If anyone knows how to handle high-security systems, it's him." They contacted Daniel Harper, who agreed to join them on the mission. Together, the trio devised a plan to infiltrate the facility and take down Echo Chamber once and for all. It was risky, but they had no choice. The clock was ticking, and the longer the system remained active, the more damage it would cause. As they prepared for the operation, chaos unfolded across the country. Protests intensified, fueled by conflicting narratives amplified by Echo Chamber. Some groups called for unity and reform, while others embraced division and hostility. Social media became a battleground, with hashtags trending and fading faster than ever before. In Washington, lawmakers scrambled to address the crisis. Hearings were scheduled, investigations launched, but progress was slow. By the time legislation could be drafted, the damage might already be done. Amidst the turmoil, Jasmine received a surprising call from Candace. "We need to talk," Candace said bluntly. Face to face. Jasmine hesitated, unsure whether to trust her, but curiosity got the better of her. "Fine, meet me at the coffee shop downtown in an hour." When they met, the tension between them was palpable. Candace wasted no time getting to the point. "I didn't know the full scope of what Jake was doing," she admitted, "but I should have asked more questions. I let my ambition cloud my judgment." Jasmine studied her carefully, searching for sincerity in her expression. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want to help," Candace replied. "I may not agree with everything you stand for, but I believe in freedom, in giving people the power to think for themselves. Echo Chamber takes that away, and I can't let that happen." For the first time, Jasmine saw vulnerability in Candace's eyes. Maybe there was hope for redemption after all. With Candace's unexpected alliance, the team finalized their plan. Under the cover of darkness, they approached the facility housing Echo Chamber's servers. Armed guards patrolled the perimeter, but Daniel's expertise proved invaluable as he disabled security systems and created a diversion. Inside, rows of blinking computers hummed ominously, their screens displaying streams of data flowing endlessly. Jasmine and Emily worked quickly, planting devices designed to overload the system. Just as they finished, alarms blared throughout the building. "Time to go," Daniel shouted, ushering them toward the exit. Behind them, the servers sparked and smoked, collapsing under the strain. As they emerged into the cool night air, the facility plunged into darkness, signaling the end of Echo Chamber, or so they hoped. The battle wasn't over yet. While the immediate threat had been neutralized, the scars left by Echo Chamber ran deep. Rebuilding trust, fostering understanding, and healing divisions would take time. But for the first time in months, there was hope. A fragile, flickering flame determined to burn brightly against the shadows. And in the end, that made all the difference. The alarm blared like a siren, piercing through the silence of the underground facility. Red and blue lights flashed wildly, casting eerie shadows across the walls. Jasmine's heart raced as she glanced over her shoulder at the approaching guards. They were running out of time. "Hurry!" Daniel shouted, his fingers flying over the keyboard of his laptop. He had managed to disable most of the security cameras and lock down one section of the building, but it wouldn't hold for long. "We've got maybe 2 minutes before they override my hack." Emily nodded, working quickly to plant the final device among the rows of humming servers. Each machine was a node in Echo Chamber's vast network, processing data and manipulating public opinion on a massive scale. If they succeeded, the system would collapse, and with it, Jake Thompson's grip on society. Jasmine held her breath as Emily pressed the activation button. A low hum filled the room, growing louder by the second. Sparks began to fly from some of the servers, their circuits frying under the strain. Smoke curled upward, stinging their eyes and making it harder to see. "We're done here," Emily yelled, grabbing Jasmine's arm. "Let's move." But just as they turned to leave, a group of armed guards burst into the room. Their flashlights cut through the haze, illuminating the trio trapped between the chaos of collapsing servers and the threat of capture. "Stop right there," one of the guards barked, raising his weapon. His voice echoed ominously in the confined space. Daniel stepped forward, holding up his hands. "Look, we're not here to hurt anyone," he said calmly, though his voice betrayed his fear. "This system is dangerous. It's controlling people without their knowledge. Shutting it down is the only way to stop it." For a brief moment, the guards hesitated. But orders were orders, and they weren't about to let intruders walk away. One of them lunged forward, grabbing Daniel by the shoulder. Thinking quickly, Jasmine grabbed a fire extinguisher mounted on the wall and sprayed it directly at the guards. The sudden burst of foam caught them off guard, giving the team precious seconds to escape. They sprinted down the narrow hallway, dodging debris falling from the ceiling as the facility continued to crumble around them. Behind them, the sound of collapsing servers grew deafening. Entire racks toppled over, sending shockwaves through the structure. Alarms screamed louder than ever, warning of an imminent meltdown. It was clear that Echo Chamber wasn't going down quietly. As they reached the exit, Daniel paused to glance back at the destruction. "That should do it," he muttered, relief washing over his face. Echo Chamber's gone. But Jasmine knew better. Destroying the hardware was only part of the solution. The ideas it had spread, the divisions it had deepened, would take far longer to heal. Still, this was a start. Outside, the cool night air hit them like a wave, clearing their lungs of the smoke and tension they'd left behind. They huddled together in the shadows, catching their breath and assessing their injuries. None of them had escaped unscathed. Scratches, bruises, and singed clothes told the story of their harrowing escape. Before they could regroup fully, headlights appeared in the distance. A black SUV screeched to a halt mere feet away, and Jake Thompson stepped out, flanked by 2 more guards. His expression was a mix of fury and desperation. "You think you can just destroy everything I've built?" he snarled, pointing an accusing finger at Jasmine. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Jasmine stood tall, meeting his gaze head-on. "I know exactly what we've done," she replied firmly. "We've stopped you from controlling people's minds, from dividing us further. You might have thought you were helping, but all you did was make things worse." Jake clenched his fists, visibly struggling to maintain control. "You don't understand. Without Echo Chamber, society will fall apart. People won't know how to think for themselves. They'll turn on each other." "No," Candace interjected, stepping out from behind the SUV where she had been waiting. Her presence startled everyone, including Jake. "What you did wasn't helping. It was exploiting. And I won't stand by while you ruin lives for profit." Jake stared at her, betrayal etched across his face. "You promised me your support," he spat bitterly. "Was that all a lie?" "I promised transparency," Candace shot back. "And when I found out you were lying to me, I realized I couldn't be part of this anymore." For a moment, no one moved. The weight of the confrontation hung heavy, in the air. Finally, Jake sighed, lowering his hand. "Fine," he said softly. "Take your moral high ground, but mark my words. This isn't over." With that, he climbed back into the SUV and sped off into the night, leaving the others standing in stunned silence. In the days that followed, news of Echo Chamber's takedown spread like wildfire. Investigations were launched, hearings held, and arrests made. Jake Thompson became a fugitive, his empire crumbling under the weight of evidence against him. Meanwhile, the nation grappled with the revelation that its thoughts, beliefs, and actions had been manipulated for years. Jasmine emerged as a hero to many, hailed for her bravery in exposing the truth. She gave interviews, wrote articles, and spoke at rallies, urging people to reclaim their agency and resist manipulation. Her message resonated deeply, especially among those who had felt powerless in the face of divisive rhetoric. Candace, too, faced scrutiny, but also redemption. By turning against Jake and supporting Jasmine's mission, she earned a measure of forgiveness from critics who had once dismissed her as ruthless. Though her reputation remained polarizing, she used her platform to advocate for accountability and transparency in technology. Even Daniel and Emily found themselves thrust into the spotlight, celebrated as key figures in dismantling Echo Chamber. Together, they founded an organization dedicated to monitoring the ethical use of algorithms and artificial intelligence, ensuring that no one could exploit such tools again. Despite these victories, healing the wounds inflicted by Echo Chamber proved challenging. Communities across America remained divided, struggling to rebuild trust and find common ground. Protests continued, driven by lingering anger and frustration. Yet amidst the turmoil, small acts of kindness and understanding began to emerge. One evening, Jasmine attended a community meeting in a park. People gathered in circles, sharing stories and listening to perspectives different from their own. A young boy played guitar while an elderly woman sang along, their voices blending harmoniously, despite their generational gap. Nearby, a man helped another fix a broken bike, laughing as they worked together. It was moments like these that reminded Jasmine why they had fought so hard. Change wouldn't happen overnight, but every step forward mattered. As she watched the scene unfold, Candace approached her cautiously. "Mind if I join you?" she asked, her tone softer than usual. Jasmine hesitated, then nodded. "Sure." They sat side by side in silence for a while, watching the world slowly piece itself back, together. Neither woman needed to say anything. They both understood the magnitude of what had been lost and what still lay ahead. Finally, Candace broke the quiet. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. For everything." Jasmine looked at her, seeing not an opponent, but a person trying to make amends. "Apology accepted," she said simply. "Now let's focus on moving forward, together." And with that, they joined the crowd, ready to face whatever came next. The days turned into weeks, and slowly the dust began to settle. The revelation about Echo Chamber had shaken America to its core, exposing not only the dangers of unchecked technology, but also the fragility of trust within society. People were left grappling with questions they hadn't asked before. Who controls the narratives we believe? How do we know what's real? And most importantly, how can we move forward? Jasmine Crockett found herself at the center of this reckoning. She traveled across the country, speaking at town halls, schools, and community centers. Her message was simple yet powerful. We cannot change the past, but we can shape the future. It starts with listening to each other, to our fears, and to our hopes. Her words resonated deeply, especially among those who had felt voiceless during the chaos. Wherever she went, people gathered to share their stories. A single mother spoke about struggling to find work while being bombarded by divisive ads online. A college student described feeling pressured to pick sides in arguments he didn't fully understand. An elderly veteran recounted how social media algorithms isolated him from friends who held different views. Listening became Jasmine's mission. She encouraged communities to create spaces where dialogue could thrive, safe zones free from judgment or hostility. These efforts weren't perfect, tensions still flared, and old wounds took time to heal. But little by little, bridges began to form. Candace Owens, too, played a role in this process, albeit a quieter one. After publicly acknowledging her involvement with Jake Thompson and condemning echo chambers' misuse, she stepped back from the spotlight. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to reflect on her actions and motivations. What she discovered wasn't always comfortable, but it was necessary. One evening, as she sat alone in her apartment, Candace opened an old journal she hadn't touched in years. Flipping through its pages, she revisited moments when her passion for truth had been overshadowed by ambition. She realized that somewhere along the way she had lost sight of why she started speaking out in the first place, not to win debates, but to inspire change. With newfound clarity, Candace decided to use her platform differently. Instead of focusing solely on criticism, she began highlighting stories of resilience and cooperation. She interviewed activists working to bridge racial divides, entrepreneurs creating jobs in underserved neighborhoods, and educators teaching critical thinking, skills to combat misinformation. Her audience responded positively, surprised but appreciative of her shift in tone. Meanwhile, Daniel Harper and Emily Carter continued their work monitoring algorithmic systems. Their organization, Transparency Tech, gained traction as more people demanded accountability in artificial intelligence. They collaborated with lawmakers to draft regulations ensuring that such tools would never again be used to manipulate public opinion. Though progress was slow, they remained optimistic. "We're planting seeds," Emily told Daniel one afternoon as they reviewed data from a new project. "It might take years for them to grow, but every step counts." Daniel nodded, smiling, faintly. "And if anyone tries to abuse these systems again, we'll be ready." Back in Washington, hearings revealed the full extent of echo chambers' influence. Lawmakers listened intently as whistleblowers testified about the program's capabilities and its impact on democracy. Public outrage fueled demands for reform, leading to landmark legislation aimed at regulating tech companies and protecting individual privacy. Among the witnesses was Alex Rivera, the young programmer who had risked everything to expose the truth. As he sat before Congress, his hands trembled slightly, but his voice remained steady. "I joined this industry because I believed technology could improve lives," he said. "But I learned that without ethics, innovation becomes dangerous. We must hold ourselves accountable for the sake of future generations." His testimony brought tears to many eyes, including Jasmine's, who watched from the audience. Afterward, she approached him, offering her gratitude. "You've given us a chance to start over," she said sincerely. "Thank you." Alex smiled, shyly. "We all did this together. None of us could have done it alone." As months passed, the nation began to heal in ways both big and small. Protests evolved into discussions, anger gave way to empathy, and divisions softened into understanding. Social media platforms implemented stricter guidelines to prevent manipulation, thanks in part to pressure from Transparency Tech and advocacy groups. In one particularly memorable moment, a viral video showed two strangers, a black man and a white woman, hugging after a heated argument in a grocery store parking lot. The caption read, "Even disagreements can lead to connection." Millions shared the clip, inspired by its simplicity and sincerity. Jasmine saw this as proof that humanity still had the capacity to overcome hatred. At a rally in New York City, she addressed a crowd of thousands, her voice filled with hope. "This is what freedom looks like," she declared. "Not the absence of conflict, but the courage to face it head-on. Together we are stronger than any system designed to divide us." Standing near the edge of the stage, Candace watched silently, her arms crossed. Though she chose not to speak, her presence sent a powerful message. Even former adversaries could stand side by side in pursuit of a better world. The journey wasn't easy, nor was it complete. Echo Chambers' legacy lingered in the form of mistrust and skepticism. But there was also resilience, a determination to learn from mistakes and build something stronger. At a quiet cafe in Denver, Jasmine met Maria Lopez for coffee. "Do you think we'll ever fully recover?" Maria asked, stirring sugar into her cup. Jasmine thought for a moment before answering. "Recovery isn't about going back to how things were. It's about moving forward, together. And yes, I think we can do that." Maria smiled, nodding. "Good, because I'd hate to think all this effort was for nothing." Far away, in Los Angeles, Candace received a letter from a young fan. "Your words help me see that I don't have to choose sides," the note read. "I can listen and learn instead. Thank you." She tucked the letter into her desk drawer, a reminder of why she kept fighting, even when the path seemed uncertain. In the end, the battle wasn't just between ideologies or individuals. It was a fight for truth, for freedom, and for the soul of a nation striving to understand itself. And though scars remain, so did hope, the kind that comes from knowing that even in darkness, light can break through. America was still divided in many ways, but beneath the surface, something profound had shifted. People were waking up, not just to the dangers of manipulation, but to the power of unity. And in that awakening lay the promise of a brighter tomorrow.